GIS person, and Steve said he would be willing to do that since she resides next door in his office over in the Masonic building. So we want to welcome our new GIS person, what will soon be introduced.
Good afternoon. I'm bringing the new GIS person in. Her name is Angie Gibson. I wanted to bring her in front of you guys so you could put her face with her name. I'm going to let her tell a little bit about herself, and I'll let her do it.
So my name is Angie Gibson. I came here from Ball State University. I worked there for almost 20 years as a GIS coordinator. So I managed the software, did some teaching, worked with students, so kind of everything GIS at Ball State. Before that, I did some work at a company called HNTB, some consulting work with GIS. And I actually started my career after being a student at Ball State at Delaware County in the Planning Commission. So I've kind of worked in all three different fields now: academia, government, and private. So
We certainly welcome you, and chirp, chirp, as Betsy would echo, I'm sure. She's Ball State. I'm Ball State. And welcome. It's been 6 months in coming, and a lot of people, including us, we're glad you're here.
well, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you, Steve, for introducing her. We have an EDC update, and after that, we'll have a chamber update.
You may wait. It's okay. They all have it.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby, for working on that.
Do you want to do the chamber update?
Yeah, we can do the chamber update. We're glad that Shonda's here. We haven't seen her in a few months. She's been busy with different things, and she's, I'm sure, going to tell us about some of those things.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shonda.
Thank you. It's good to be back today. Yeah, we have a full calendar, so I just wanted to share some things we've got going on at the chamber right now. I'm sure at least those that are chamber members are aware the gala is coming. Voting was yesterday and today. Had a learning curve on virtual voting, so if anyone's having any hiccups with voting, just let us know. We did have a nice number of nominations, so if you've been through that voting process, you've seen we had quite a few nominations. We appreciate everyone supporting those citizens and businesses in our county that are doing outstanding things. So the gala will be on the 22nd. We do have reservations still available, $35 a person. Last year we did have a waiting list, so if you are interested in going, I'd encourage you to get your tickets early. Also, coming in March 7th, we have partnered with Ball State. They will be coming in March 7th, 8:30 at REMC, and doing a customer experience excellence program that morning. So just if you go on our website, you can get more information on that. Should be in-depth, nice seminar, March 7th. And coming up on April 7th, our Women's Networking Group, which is a new group the Chamber has formed to mentor and support professional women. Our guest speaker will be Debbie Ware, and if you remember, she was the Citizen of the Year for 2021, so that should be a popular speaker. And then on April 20th is our next chamber lunch, and that will be Chase Koger will be our guest speaker. So we expect that to be a popular lunch. And then to wrap up our events that are coming up here pretty soon, May 5th is Career Day. So that's like the student career day that gives students experiences that boost with local businesses. So if your business is interested in that, there's no charge. Come out and share your business with our students. This is in support of retention of the population, getting the students either if they go away to college or trade school to return or to stay local. Some may opt not to go to college. So it's in support of that with our Workforce Development Committee. So that's the main things we're chewing on for now. So does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for taking time and reporting. And you're welcome any month.
I know. We've
Fourth
just been,
Thursday, same time, same station.
I know, just been had our hands full, so thank you.
Thank you, Shonda. Mr. Murphy, EDC, and I think there's a resolution that may correspond with what you're introducing.
probably have you scroll down. So at your station and hopefully electronically, you received this one-page infographic, and it's also up there. It tells a story of how this county has invested the food and beverage tax. So in Henry County, when you go buy a cup of coffee, instead of paying a 7% sales tax, you pay an 8% sales tax, and that additional percent comes back here locally. It was put in place as a result of a statewide search when the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame was looking to relocate from downtown Indianapolis in the mid-1980s. It was a competition amongst communities that wanted to participate. And Newcastle and Henry County won that competition and offered the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame a site and a sizable contribution to the construction of its facility. The source of that was this county and its leaders at the time went to the General Assembly and asked for a food and beverage tax. And it's been in place since. And so 50-plus projects since 1990, and that's very conservative in terms of the number of projects. We highlighted 3 of those. So Ivy Tech Community College, the actual facility, the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame, and the Saddle Club. Over $20 million invested. About our tax and how it operates. And if you're wondering why I'm preaching to the choir, I'll get to that in a minute. A citizen advisory group from all across Henry County. Appointments made by the commissioners, the council, Newcastle, Knightstown, Middletown. You all have oversight and final decision. So as one of my favorite presidents says, the buck stops with you, and I think it's good. Projects must be sponsored by a unit of local government or a not-for-profit. They must be tied to tourism and or economic development, and awarded projects were grassroots supported by the community. Our most recent funding round was 19 projects funded in 2022, ranging from girls softball to the Arts Park Pavilion, and then also helping the Veterans Museum out at Memorial Park. Over $5.5 million leveraged. So that is the contribution from food and beverage plus the 20% minimum match. It is an incredible tool. And we could take a driving tour across the county and look at projects that have benefited from this body's wise stewardship and investment, you and your predecessors. Why am I talking about it now? Well, it's because our General Assembly is in session, and there always seems to be something at risk when they are gathered in Indianapolis. And in this instance, it's the food and beverage tax. Senate Bill 37. Senate Bill 37 passed out of the Senate, supported by our state senator. It sunsets all food and beverage tax. Sunset means end, with the exception of, and I will put in a little Corey Murphy editorial, ironically, Indianapolis and the donut counties are exempted because their food and beverage tax goes to support the house that Peyton built. There's debt on that little stadium. And then also, ironically, down in Orange County, if you've ever been to West Baden and French Lick, they have a food and beverage tax, and it too is exempted. So about 28 other, approximately, so there's about 30 units, when I say unit, a county or a town or a city, have food and beverage. So 28 others will sunset in 2040-ish. Well, Corey, that's a long way away. Why are you worried about it? Well, once a sunset gets into the code, it becomes measurably difficult to remove it. It's better just to keep it out. Also, it removes local flexibility. If you all sometime in the future wanted to consider another bond, and I know you're not, I'm projecting out. Well, if the sunset, if it expires, then the length of the bond is going to shrink, and therefore the annual payment is going to go up, and it's probably going to be too expensive. So Senate Bill 37 is, in my opinion, a threat to a tool that this county has used very, very successfully. And it is well managed by local elected officials. And it's transparent. As a member of the advisory committee, we did a lot of YouTube, in terms of presentations. And I know the county commissioners spend a fair amount of time reviewing those claims to make sure that the match has been made. So I'll kind of land the plane. If you have an opportunity to see or talk to Senator Rotz, maybe kindly ask him to reconsider his support. Maybe Senator Lysing might be influential, and then particularly our Representative Criswell. So it was assigned to House Ways and Means. I don't know what's going to happen. We're not the only community that is impacted by this, but I wanted to bring it to your attention. I'm going to move on to some other things unless you had a question about food and beverage.
I know several of us have written our legislators.
Appreciate you writing them. I guess if I do a future call to action, I'm going to provide their office phone number. I'm not so sure that the emails are read in a timely manner. And they probably get hundreds, if not thousands. But things move so quickly over there. I think they maybe track their phone calls maybe a little quicker than they do their emails. I also gave you a handout on tax increment finance at yesterday's work session with the county commissioners. I went through this in detail. I don't intend to go through it in detail here because you have a long itinerary. But I wanted to provide this overview to you. So the first page gives a basic description of TIF. It gives an example of projects that have been completed with the use of tax increment finance. The second page is a graphic that is created by our friends at Baker Tilly, and I couldn't do it better, so I just robbed theirs. The next page is a list of plan amendments that the County Redevelopment Commission is proposing to do. And the last page is the procedural timetable in which those plan amendments get approved. There's some bad bills going through the General Assembly regarding TIF as well, and I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on those, but one of the concerns, and I think not a logical concern, is there's no transparency in tax increment finance. Well, these plan amendments is a 90-day process which involves the following: a vote at a public meeting of the Redevelopment Commission, a vote at a public meeting of the Plan Commission, a vote at a public meeting of the County Commissioners, then a public hearing at the Redevelopment Commission, and then it comes back for final approval to the County Commissioners, who have ultimate say. The County Council gets involved on, say, a TIF, Economic Development Commission incentive. So most recently, you all approved that for the Boar's Head expansion. So that's where the County Council gets involved on tax increment finance in addition to your appointments to the commission. But I wanted to to give this to you, and if you have any questions after you've read it tonight for your sleep medicine, you can give me a call or reach out. Prior to going to the resolution, is there any questions you have on something maybe I didn't cover? There's a lot going on, but I'm not going to take up time. Hearing no questions, may I move into the next item? So at your January meeting, I introduced a business retention and expansion project by Legacy Feed that is located at 477 South 600 East. It is a $21 million expansion, 30 new jobs by the end of 2024. 18 of those jobs will be an average hourly wage of $23 an hour. 12 of those positions will have an average salary of $80,000. I received permission to work with the county attorney to bring to you a resolution. And what is the number? What's the resolution number?
2023-02-23, today's date, -001. It's our first resolution of 2023.
Okay. So what he said, preliminary resolution designating property as an economic revitalization area and approving real property and personal property tax abatement for Legacy Feed, LLC. Moving through the whereases, talking about the project, talking about the location. It is a 7-year traditional, so that is in section 6. You can see the charts, the year of the deduction, and the percentage of the AV that is abated. If you adopt this, it sets up a public hearing at your March meeting to hear comment, to designate those parcels that are attached as Exhibit A as an economic revitalization area. After the public hearing, you can take final action, which could be to decline or modify. Mr. Harvey, have I adequately? Check the process. Okay. Any questions about the project?
So we'll take this up again at our March 23rd meeting then. Does that conclude your introduction? Are we ready for questions for Corey? You have a copy of 2023-02-23-001 before you. First, would entertain if there's any questions of our county attorney or of Corey. And I think we may have reps here, but if not, entertain a motion to approve this resolution.
So moved.
Moved by Betsy,
I'll second.
seconded by Shannon. Any further discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Thank you, sir. Thank you, gentlemen. Next on our agenda, we have use of equipment funds. This was something that in an email update from Attorney Harvey yesterday, he said this was in order. I believe this goes with our handout that's dated January 24th from Sheriff Sproles. We asked at our January meeting if it were legally advisable and appropriate to use the fees that he discussed in January from commissary, legal fees, timekeeping, office supplies, medical and insurance costs related to law enforcement and detention, or any other allowable expenditure related to the sheriff's office. And you're reading your email update, you said going through Indiana code it was.
You can agree to use the commissary for anything from jail, sheriff's court, and that request being made for.
Okay. So So what we have is basically the letter dated January 24th, and so this would be open for a motion to approve, as indicated by our attorney, that this was a legal move. So I'd entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Shannon. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Susan? Thought it sounded like you. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Next, we have Butch Baker. He's here. What this is, and I know Butch, who is director of 911, has met with several of us, including myself, and this is an annual PSAP that's required by the state for 911, and it's just something that we have to formally approve. And this was a 9-page printout that was forwarded to you earlier this week. If there are any questions before the motion, Butch is here. But if not, I'd entertain a motion to approve this required report from 911. Anybody on the south side would like to make a motion? Thank you, Mike. Mike, do we have a second? Second by Kyle. Any discussion? And again, Butch is here if there is. If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Did you have any other report to make, Butch, or is this the... You're here because usually that means you have some other information. Okay. Is your mic on?
Green, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
The very back page, if you have that with you, just sort of of interest, if you start reading from the left, the yellow line from the left, that other is the city cash match money. It's $185,695. That's what was spent out of the city cash match money that came to 911. The next one is the general fund, which is the county general fund, which is $187,053.83, and then the 911 state funds is $628,397, making a total of $1,001,000. So that was my budget. That's what was spent on. The city cash match and the city cash match all was what I call vendors fees. It's whether it be maintenance on the generators, maintenance on this, insurance coverage, and that kind of stuff. So, and I have documentation to back that up and support it with that. So the other documentation is just want to know how many positions we have, how many employees we have, and that kind of stuff. The more important one is the financial one. That one has to marry up with what the state says I can and cannot spend that money for.
Since your last report, you have hired an additional 911 dispatcher.
Yes, additional too, yes.
And things are going well other than needing more money, correct?
Yeah, well, somebody's going to need more money pretty soon here.
We've seen that trend over the last few years, and
Yeah.
Baker Tilly has showed us graphically it's going down.
And I'm still working on that process. I know I've talked to several of you. There's a couple of you here I haven't talked to. Some at the city have been talked to. There's a couple of them I think left not to be talked to yet. So we're waiting on a couple answers as to how to process and go forward. And then at that point, one of these meetings, we're going to present it and give you guys, put the ball in your court and see what you want to do and see if you want to go forward with something. So as I've said before, the outcome is that we go down to one dispatcher and no director and no IT guy, and you might be able to squeeze out a few more years, but that's about it. So
I think we all realize that's
yeah,
not
it's coming. It's coming.
going to work.
Through no fault of, and the ones that I have talked to, I gave a copy of, and the ones I haven't will get a copy of the vendor's report. And if you can squeeze anything out of that vendor's report that you think I can get rid of, with the exception of those 2 line items, it won't amount to about $3,000, $4,000. That's it. And on $1 million program, that's not going to be much.
And when we met, we talked about House Bill 1207, which probably will pass, but you said the state director said that doesn't mean that there's going to be any more monies flowing to the locals.
No more money coming in. In fact, he was on a Zoom meeting. There was about 77 PSAP directors, and him yesterday was on a Zoom meeting on a couple other issues, but he wanted to make sure, because I brought that to his attention, asking how much money that was going to bring us if it passed. And he said, well, it's not going to pass. It's going to pass. It's just what Corey was talking about. It's a sunset. Right now, they can put that 10 cents on. They could have put the 10 cents on last year. But it sunsets in 2024, 2025, and they're asking for that sunset to be extended out so that they can put it on at some point in time. But they've assured the state legislators that they have no intentions of putting that 10 cents on. And if they put that 10 cents on, 10 cents times 10 cents a month, if we had 50,000 phones in this county, 10 cents times 50,000 phones, depending on how many phones are being paid for out at the prison, it's not going to generate that much money.
And they're not intending to do that.
No,
That's a condition of passing it.
They're going to put the 10 cents on when they, on the state side, get into a pinch. Because statewide, that 10 cents across the state will generate a lot of money. And then it's what's called the 90-10 split, that they'll be able to make some more money that way, which, can't blame them, I guess.
I'm trying to figure out
Yeah.
who in which county ticked off legislators.
Yeah, well, I thought that might be a way we might have dug ourselves out of this, but it wouldn't amount to anything, money-wise, not even close. So,
Anything else for Butch? Anything else, Butch?
nope, just my additional appropriation. I'll just sit back here and wait.
Okay. Thank you. Speaking of additional appropriations, that's our request. The first one we have on our agenda is highway, and that's for $190,000, which I believe Joe introduced at our January meeting. And that's from 1169 Local Road and Street Fund for road equipment. And he explained last month about 2 trucks from Madison County in the 2022 budget, and this is reconciling that move, and we were assured that money's available in that fund. Joe is here to answer any questions. If you have any questions, he can come forward. If not, I would entertain a motion to move that additional appropriation of $190,000.
So moved.
Tell me if I'm right. Moved by Betsy and seconded by Harold. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Second one we have is from E911. And those totals of this 2 pages combined, it's broken out in the handouts that you were forwarded, is $188,886. And there's a letter explaining that's dated January 12th. If you have no questions, we've been assured the monies are there. entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make that motion.
Is that Shannon? Second? Second by Mike. No discussion. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Then we have one from EMA, which is the Emergency Management of Henry County. This would be from Tim Welch. He mentioned yesterday at a meeting he could not be here, but it is, and he assured me when we talked, there's monies there, and it's for part-time meetings and training for a total of $8,500. If there are no questions, he's not here to answer them. I could try. I would entertain a motion to approve $8,500 additional appropriation from EMA. EMA. So moved by Kyle. Seconded by Mike on the south side.
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
Someone refresh my memory. During budget, I think we talked with Tim, and what was the discussion we had about his access to his funds? And we had a long discussion with Tim, I think, during budget session about access to his funds and why did he not have access to his funds? There was something. Right, okay. I felt like there was, okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Right. Yeah, I don't have I was just trying to remember how that went. I felt like he needed to do something to get monies that should have been there. And I think that was the grant. Okay. Yeah, I think that was two grants, I think.
And he alluded to getting that grant, I believe.
Yeah, we just signed the document, or Steve, Commissioner Dellinger just signed the document accepting the grant.
Okay.
I think that was the one for salaries. Is that correct, Debbie? It was the one for his salaries. He just signed the document yesterday for that
Okay.
grant.
Okay.
But I know there's another grant that everybody always looks at, I want to say, or pool of money that's like $29,000, but it's very restricted as to what it can and cannot be used for in his budget. It can only be used for, I think, a list of this. I don't remember what it is. I just remember that conversation. But yeah, the grant that for salaries was approved or awarded.
Okay, thank you. He did allude.
I just wanted to make
the
sure
grant had
that was
been-
happening because I knew
Yes.
for some reason he had money he couldn't get to, but I couldn't remember.
He seemed to be happy in his learning phase and that he was understanding what was going on and monies were coming as he had hoped, including the grant that he, yes, yes. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor of the 8,500 EMA? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Health Department, $45,000. We have a letter dated from Angela, and she's here, of January 27th. And it's $45,000 from the 1159 Health Fund. The purpose request to purchase a Chevy 1500 Series pickup for use in the Environmental Health Department. Please let me know if there's any other information. The vehicle they've been using is not good. So, anything else that we need to know? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve. Moved by Harold. Here a second.
I'll second.
Shannon? No further discussion. Angela's here to answer. It's to replace a broken down jalopy that should have been retired years ago, correct? That's an understatement. I've ridden in it. So, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? That passes 7-0. Thank you, Angela. You need to use a mic. Okay, resolution, this is our second.
I'll say it. I said, keep it locked up or Joe Copeland's going to come and take it from you.
See, okay, back to business. We have to lighten the air occasionally. Second resolution of the year is numbered one higher than the one previous that Corey was introducing. This is Resolution 2023-02-23, today's date, but this one is -002. And we introduced this back in January meeting, and it's what to do with the 2016 GEO bond. And we had asked Joel to write up something after we took a vote, which was in the minutes. And this is a resolution making it official of the $28,383.07. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
Moved by Betsy? Oh, who? Okay. You know from sitting up here, you really can't tell, unless you know a person's voice or have eyes in the back of your head. Thank you. So it's moved by Susan, seconded by Betsy. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. This one, we scratched the sheriff's contract. No, we were asked not to by the sheriff right before the meeting. So apparently has some questions that needs to work out with commissioners and Joel. So honoring that request. Number 10, sale of the Hope Building. This was written by Joel in a letter summarizing several things that we were addressing today. And it says, sale of the Hope Building. I know this was mentioned and dealt with at the commissioners meeting last night that I listened in on. Sale of the former Hope Building. ERA Realty was the broker because the opinions of value indicated property worth $50,000 or more. This is Indiana code. Approval of the county fiscal body, i.e. the council, is required prior to sale occurring. Average of the two opinions, the appraisals were 132. An offer of 100 was previously accepted by the commissioners, but was subject to the buyer obtaining the vacant lot to the east of the building. That did not occur, and so the prior agreement is now void. Thus, request that you approve the sale of the Hope property at 1426 Broad Street for $145,000, which is $13,000 above the average of appraisals. And we are supposed to approve this as you had written to make it official as per law. So do I have a motion to go ahead and approve the sale of this since it's over $50,000?
I just have a question.
Yes.
I'm curious, who are we selling it to, and what are they going to use it for?
I was asked that earlier today, and I said I did not know.
MTB Home Furnishings, local, Rex
Will be a
Bertram.
business in there?
I'm assuming that's what he's doing since that's who's buying it, yes.
Okay.
I mean, we're not given what he's going to do with the property. It's just that he's made an offer on it, and that's
Sure. I was just curious.
Yeah, but yeah,
I mean, it doesn't.
We don't get that any of that information in the packet.
Okay.
It's just the
Okay.
offer and who it is and any conditions.
Sure.
I think
It'd
I
be
did
nice to
read
think that we
somewhere.
had a business moving into downtown and paying taxes. That would be great.
If I'm not mistaken, that's a business currently in the former D.L. Couch building on South Memorial Drive down by the animal hospital. So they're moving into a larger facility.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah. So where were we? Motion? Okay, Kyle moved and seconded by Mike. Okay, any other discussion, questions? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Okay, approved 7-0. You guys are-
I had a quick question. Does that money come back to county general, or does it go to, county general?
Generally, you're supposed to trace it, but
Any other questions? Okay, well, we're glad that a building is sold or about to be sold. So hopefully, fingers, toes crossed. Okay, job classification. We have down Susan because I think she was on the council the longest. But I think coming in at the end of the meeting, Betsy Mills was voted in as the chair of the job description. So you two arm wrestle over who's giving this report. Usually it's the chair. And so Betsy, congratulations. And as Corey says, condolences. It's all yours to give an update.
Yeah, it's an honor to chair the committee after serving on it for the last 3 years under Chad and Ann Bankson. And we're in a moment of transition because Ann moved to the sheriff's department. Chad's no longer on council. So I think a little bit of today was just getting organized and figuring out, how we move forward. And part of that's electing a chair. And I was also able to sit and have a brief conversation with Stephanie Whitehead, who's going to be handling the HR angle for now, and is doing a great job from all accounts. Present were David Fisher, Mandy Madison, Shannon, Bobby, Susan, Stephanie, and myself. This is really exciting because if you listen to Chad for the last couple of years, we've been begging people to join, and we had a full table today, so that was really cool. I appreciate everybody who was there. There were 3 actions that we were asked to consider. Debbie came to us and asked us if we would consider paying Stephanie the difference between doing the difference in money between doing her current position in the auditor's office, but also taking on the HR responsibilities. And we agreed that, yes, we would do that. That was a unanimous vote. Joe Copeland came to us and asked us to approve 2 laborers at a price, or at a daily, or excuse me, hourly rate of $17.50, with the hopes that they might continue on and earn their CDLs and be employees. That passed unanimously. Then Rita Fisher, the president of the park board, came to us. This is an issue that has been kicked around the last few months, and that's the park superintendent in the house in the park. So I would say we had a lively discussion, and we considered a lot of different perspectives and angles. The job classification committee voted to that Casey would remain a PAT 2, given that she doesn't have a bachelor's degree, which is required for the PAT 3, and no movement on her current salary, but to also include the house and utilities at the park as part of her compensation package. And that was about it. I welcome Shannon or Susan to chime in with anything I might have missed.
We did, some of us had the thought that it would be ideal if the utilities were separated out, but that wasn't an option, a very practical option, because they don't have separate meters. So at the end of the discussion, we decided that the utilities would go with the house. The park is already paying utilities on the house as it sits there, even though they are, higher with someone in it. So the committee decided to include utilities and utilities with the house.
Okay, and this, I know one thing that's occurred, and one reason this was delayed, because we did ask Wagner Irwin Shealy to do an analysis with the compensation of the house, which I don't think had been done if it had been years. And so this, what you approved, President Salad, that's within the PAT 2 recommendation that came back in December, I believe, from Wagner Irwin Shealy, correct?
What came back from Wagner Irwin and Shields said that if the position was filled with someone with a bachelor's degree, it would be PAT 3, and if not, it would be PAT 2. So the discussion was that the job should be PAT 2 and should be paid as other PAT 2s are currently paid.
Okay.
Which will need some adjustment because right now she's not receiving what other PAT 2s are being paid.
Yes, go ahead. They can answer it. 44. 44.
Should be 44,000. It's currently 41, I think, so it needs to be 44.
Yeah, and another thing I read was this position is on 24-hour call. Is that correct?
Wanted to give a few other thoughts too. There's so many different pieces of the conversation. We talked about the need to separate the idea of maintenance on the house, which will be addressed during budget time. How much the county is willing to pay to maintain that house, I think, is a separate issue from the job salary. So we talked about keeping that separate. We talked about, first deciding what the salary position was, and then whether or not we thought the housing benefit should be added to it or subtracted from it. And we also, reminded everyone that discussion isn't really related to Casey at all. It's the job and whoever fills the job in the future. So those were other pieces of the conversation that we've talked about.
Okay, so do you want to handle on our itinerary, highway first? Is that something you want to bring up and restate and have a motion to approve, or what?
Sure, we can start there. Or would we start with Debbie?
Yeah, that's not on the itinerary, so what was that again?
Sure. So Debbie asked us to approve paying Stephanie what the HR position would be.
And what would that be, do we know? So it'd be the difference? Just the difference. Okay, and we've done that before.
Yes, there's
Okay.
precedent.
So.
And it's exciting that Stephanie is doing 100% of the HR responsibilities and 100% of her previous responsibilities.
They're going well so far?
She's doing very well. She's caught on. She's taken the certification classes. She's caught on.
Good.
She's done a great job.
Good. I know that when it was mentioned,
Yeah, she works with the commissioners a lot, but she's done an excellent.
okay, when it was mentioned, I think last month, it was mentioned as a trial to see if it works.
She is.
We're not going to jump into it. We all want to make sure that it works.
Okay, good. And Bobby?
She came to us with this suggestion, and at first, it was a little bit of that might be too much, and she assured us that she was absolutely able to handle it, and I have not seen a hair out of place starting from day one when in January 1st to then when she said that she wanted to do it combined. You may have seen a hair out of place. I haven't seen a hair out of place. She has not been overwhelmed. I mean, she has taken this on like a champ. So I just wanted to say that she has done an outstanding job from the commissioner's view, because we worked with HR very closely. She has done an outstanding job.
She doesn't hesitate to jump up and go help the girls in the other office.
So, quick learner, quick study, good. I'm glad to hear that. So, a motion?
So the motion would be, we need specifics, don't we? Or can we just say the difference?
Fairly specifics, the difference.
Okay.
So you had it for job description?
Yeah, I move that we proceed by compensating Stephanie Whitehead the difference of $196.31 for 2 weeks' pay while this transition is in progress. That would be moving forward. She would continue to receive that amount. And
That post date to December 1st?
but aren't, okay, yeah. I'm following you now. So the 196.31 is for just the 2 weeks in December. An additional $708.32 from January 1 to February 24. But then this motion would also be for her to continue to receive that difference moving forward.
Okay. Assume
I
that-
will second that.
And Susan's, okay. Moved by Shannon and read by Shannon, seconded by Susan. Any other questions, discussion? All in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0. Thank you. Now, Highway Department.
So Joe asked us to approve the hiring of 2 laborers at $17.50 an hour, and that passed unanimously. Joe, am I missing anything? Okay.
These were, you said part-time, 1750.
That, and he gave us the Wagner, Irwin, Shealy, and it was on the lower end of market, so it seems reasonable.
And if I recall, 'cause we get those every year, but they left that off, part-time laborer, because you hadn't had one for a year and a half or 2 years. So I read where that report, and that is in the ballpark, but kind of low ballpark. So was that a motion, or do we,
Are these full-time or part-time?
part-time, right? Or well, they're full-time? I'm sorry. They're just non-CDL. They're in training to be CDL. Thank you. Thank you for that correction. So a motion by somebody that's got that?
So I would move that we give Joe the go-ahead to hire the 2 laborers at $17.50 an hour.
Second.
Seconded by Susan? Okay. Moved by Betsy, seconded by Susan. Any other discussion? And he brought it up last month. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 7-0.
And then the last item, and this is a recommendation from job classification, and I am sure there will be discussion, would be that it's recommended that we keep Casey at a PAT 2, and that we not reduce her salary in any way, keep it at a PAT 2, but also include the house and utilities as part of the compensation package. And I think Susan and Shannon shared some good thoughts on, how we got to that place.
And the 44 was the PAT 2 recommendation from Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy. And I did read something where they did put, and maybe you didn't get it, but something for their estimation for a home. You did get it? Okay. So just discuss away, whoever was at that meeting.
What was the estimation on the?
I don't know if did they estimate it, or did they give a
They
hypothetical?
did. It was roughly, wasn't about $800 a month.
They gave a hypothetical of $10,000 a year.
And that was about $750 or $800 rental.
We thought that was pretty low, to be honest.
Okay.
But, I mean, it's just conjecture.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think we talked through, is the house worth $1,000 a month? Are the utilities worth $500? And that is significant when you look at the money, and it's, we're not offering a house to every employee, so it is definitely significant, but it is part of the job. She's required by the park board to live there, and it's a house sitting open that is ready to be lived in, that she's happy to maintain and take care of, and do the 24-hour type of surveillance around the park that the park board's asking her to do. And so the cost to the county is not significant. We're already paying those utilities. It increases them slightly that she's in the house, yes, but there's not, letting her live there isn't that significant to the county. Whether or not the cost of upkeep becomes significant, I think, is a separate discussion during budget time. So I also want to say that this is just my personal feeling about it, that the park board wants her there, and they think she's doing a good job. And I think that if, as a county, we move in one direction together, we stand a good chance of having a better outcome than if we, keep pulling apart. So I think I would like to see what can happen at the park when everyone's moving in the same direction. So I'm just happy to support this and see if this is positive and is a benefit to the park over time.
And this, I came in at the end, and this was passed by the majority of your...
It was. We had one person dissent, but everybody else was on board.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on who am I to question all the deliberations and everything you had, because I wasn't at that or part of it, but I know last year we had someone suggesting $50,000, but it came back that was not in line with what Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy had recommended. So this 44 is in sync with other PAT 2s. Is that my understanding?
I'll make the motion, Kenan, to increase the salary of the park superintendent to the current PAT 2 level, which is 44,000, whatever number Debbie gives you to fill in the rest.
So it's been moved by, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Without any changes to compensation for the house, reductions, anything, we will continue. She will have access to the house. I would also like this to be recorded so that it's reflected in the minutes. Somehow this is documented so that this doesn't happen again in the future.
Okay. Moved with those criteria and seconded by Betsy. Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Okay, it passes Kyle, it passes 6-1. Thank you for your work on the job classification today. And it was good to see a full complement of people around the table. For
Yeah,
a change.
it was a good meeting. It was a good way to start the year.
Good. Current proposed legislation. That's me. I gave you a handout so that wouldn't burden you with a lot of talk. I understand since I started serving on the state's county council legislative committee, there's other people in Henry County serving on their respective legislative committees. I had a meeting with Bill Upchurch yesterday. He serves on the state treasurer's legislative committee, and I was unaware of that when I started this over a month ago. But House Bill 1001, and I did give you this handout, is the state budget. It would take an hour to read through that, and consultation with Joel to decipher the meaning of it. It is legalese, and there's a lot in it. Senate Bill 1 and 4 are relating to behavioral health and more public health matters. It's one's sent to the House from the Senate, the other one's passed a third reading and subject to. I know Angela, talking to her, she's been following these because the State Health Commission has given their recommendation, hopeful that something positive and constructive will come out of this post-pandemic. That's all I'll say unless Angela wants to. I know she has been working through her health at the state level, advocacy groups and lobbyists and organizations, so we'll see what happens. And as I've said before, a lot of this is like a sausage grinder in a long session with a budget year. Corey mentioned that Senate Bill 37 is phasing out, as it's written, phases out food and beverage taxes by January 1st, 2043. As his advice, I will contact Senator Rotz, and the three I've sent one to Senator Gaskell in Madison County, who's the co-author. I did not get a response back from him, but I did from Corey, so that was good. He did respond, but it sounds like telephone calls have maybe greater clout. They seem dead set on ending food and beverage, except for the donut counties and Orange County. But county option circuit breaker tax is Senate Bill 46 that allows the county council to adopt an ordinance, and I won't go into specifics, but it has been sent to the House. Senate Bills 1, and there's one Senate bill and 3 House bills that relate to a 5% increase cap on assessed valuations for homestead. One of those 4 have been sent. The House Bill 1499 has been sent to the Senate. If that's passed, the large increase in assessed values from last year, it will be capped at 5% if it's passed. The Senate Bill 300 I alluded to yesterday in the commissioner's work session. It's the residential TIF. They had taken guardrails out for all county government. They have recently put back in an economic development target area, whatever that means, that has to be adopted by the county council, but I don't know what that means. That's not been specified. That could have an effect on county budgets. Senate Bill 74 affects highway, the local road and street, I believe. What's now 50-50, restricted and unrestricted, would move the restricted to 40%. That may modify according to AIC. It has been passed and sent to the Senate. Time will tell if it's passed or not. House Bill 1164 deals with live streaming and archiving meetings. With the monies that we spent in the last 2 years in here, we should be okay. We're in better shape than a lot of counties when it comes to live streaming. We just have to archive, which is done through YouTube. And you look on our henrycounty.net website and you'll see that we have most every meeting that's a public meeting on there and archived. So we should be in good shape. At the bottom of the page I gave you, tells you when the committee report deadlines are for the House, which is passed. That was this 2 days ago. And third reading is February 27th is the deadline for the House. The State Senate, 23rd today was the Senate committee deadline to hear bills. And their third reading deadline is February 28th next week. I will have a meeting, a Zoom meeting with the group, which contains about, I think it consists of about 20 people that's on the County Council Legislative Committee. We'll have our Zoom tomorrow afternoon. Any questions? It's a long session, and some of these pass, it's going to not help us. It will hurt us as far as revenues. Yeah, use your mic and make a comment.
First of all, does anybody have fire extinguisher? Because I am hot.
Yeah, it's...
And I don't mean temperature-wise either.
Understood.
This food and beverage tax deal the state is trying to pull, they're a bunch of imbeciles. If they just come to Henry County and look around at all the good that this particular bill they're talking about has done, I don't understand these idiots. And I'd keep in mind the people that support this when it comes election time. I don't give a darn what your politics is, vote against them. This is ridiculous. Now I'm feeling better, and I'm cooled down a little.
Okay, feel better? Good. It was worth the time. I will say, when I wrote Representative Criswell and Senator Rotz and Senator Gaskell, I sent a copy. I attached a copy of this and explained it more fully. But I would encourage everyone on the council and everyone here, if you've seen the good, which has been over 50, it's probably closer to 75 projects over the last 30 years. The good that it's done since the tax caps came in, it's been able to support projects that we would have not been able to do otherwise. So I don't know what their motive. I don't know if it's, I don't know. But please write them if you feel as strongly as Harold, and I think most of us probably do. So it will be an interesting budget year. Between that and the judge that did, the Marion County judge that all affect the homestead credit and limit it up to 1%, this could be a very tight year. And Jason from Baker Tilly has basically said the same thing. This is going to be a very, very challenging year, especially if some of these bills are passed. Anything else from the council? Please look at the bottom of what we shared. We have a training session by Jody next Wednesday. I think most of you have said you would be willing to attend. That's roughly 3:30 to 5:15. So plan accordingly. That's in here. Next Thursday, there's two things. We have a work session between 4 and 5:15. And the reason that cuts off at, and that's in here, the reason that cuts off at 5:15 is the Indiana County Councils Association, their East Central District is going to be for the first time held in Newcastle at the Indiana Basketball Hall of Fame next Thursday. And that's 5:30 to 8. So from 4 to 8, we will earn our money, at least partially. So our next... The work session is at 4 o'clock next Thursday in here. It's mainly to start brainstorming and planning for our budget sessions. We may have a department head come in and share a little bit, but not the hour and 45 minutes degree that Jody's planning on doing, but may have them come in and explain their role in helping the budget and working with the budget, because a lot of departments go into that, including assessor, treasurer, and of course the auditor's department. I'd like to have some of them in, especially since we have pretty much 4 new members on the council that have not heard these in the past. Kyle, Betsy, you've come in since we've had the last training session.
Actually, Jody sat me down. Well,
Good.
it was a Zoom with her partners, and they actually gave me.
Good.
That was the only onboarding I got anywhere for council, and then COVID happened. So.
We need to do better. So I think as far as the last training on assessor, Susan and I are the only 2 that were around in 2019 to get the full what we do and how we help with the budget, and probably need to hear from Debbie and probably need to hear from Bill, the treasurer, and everybody goes into that budget. And I think especially new members would benefit. I think one of you, Shannon, you did the new elected officials training from AIC, and you probably found that beneficial and overwhelming. I know you come from the private sector, but the public sector just seems to be a totally different animal. But good, I'm glad that you were able to. And any other things for the good of the cause?
Yes.
Kyle,
Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
either one of you.
Yesterday, we wanted to touch base on council representation for the jail pod discussions.
I sent a text out, and we're going to handle that non-meeting. Okay. Well, yes. So read the text that I sent today, and there's a rationale for it, and we might have a what do you call it, conference call But yes, we did, and there's reasons for it, which I'll explain, but we won't cover that right now. Anything else? Betsy?
Yeah, so I've been in touch with Gertrude Whitaker, who's the new executive director of the EIRPC, and she is really wanting to come to Henry County and sit down with our council, with the mayor, relevant commissioners, just to start a dialogue, to see what our needs are, to get to know us, which I think is really encouraging. She and I sent an email about this. I only heard back from Shannon that he can't make it, but we were eyeing the afternoon of Wednesday, March 15th, and I wondered if that would be possible for my colleagues. Oh, sorry.
I don't know, beware the Ides of March.
That's true.
Can you make it, though?
It's afternoon on the 15th.
I don't,
Well, that was, Bobby, that was because you were going to meet with her separately, but then you weren't able to, so. You were going to meet with Gertrude separately, and I wasn't able to make that meeting, so she had me set this up for council. But you would be welcome to come because you weren't, I'm sorry? Okay, great. We left it open, just an afternoon meeting, so if somebody needs something specific, I can tailor it to that, but that's what we were eyeballing. Okay, maybe I'll just hit everybody up over email, but tentatively, maybe we can think about that.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, guys.
Yeah, thank you. It would be beneficial to meet with her, and especially since she asked.
Yeah, she's a real go-getter. I think she could be a good person for us.
Good to hear. You serve on that, and Bobby serves on that as a commissioner's rep, right? Okay, good. Anything else from the council before we open it up to the public? No. Public. Thank you, department heads who show up and chairs of groups that show up, and I appreciate it. It is live streamed if you want to catch any of the specifics. Our next meeting is 4 weeks from today, and it's also the 23rd, but it's March 23rd. So to have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved. Second, and see you next week, most of you. Oh yeah, stick around for signing official documents from Debbie, please.